All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. And today we're going to be looking into like an amazing true story.
Yeah,
It's about a pilot
absolutely.
who had to make a really super tough decision, and he ended up pulling off something incredible.
This is a great one.
So we're talking about what happened back on January 15th, 2009 in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a cold day, a really cold day. Flight 1549 takes off.
Okay.
And it's got 155 people on board.
Okay.
And, you think about all these people, some of them might be going on vacation, some are traveling for work. They all got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
And everything seems totally normal.
It's just another day.
Yeah, just a regular flight.
Just another flight, yep.
But then just a couple of minutes after they leave the ground,
Oh, Pam.
a flock of geese.
No way.
Yeah, they hit both engines of the plane.
Oh, no.
So now think about what engines do for a plane.
Right.
I mean, they're like the motor in a car, right?
Keeps it up in the air.
Yeah, they're what make the plane fly. They give it the power to stay up there in the air.
Right.
And when both of them suddenly stop working, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, that's not good.
It would be like if your car engine just suddenly quit while you were driving down the road.
Oh, totally.
Like no power at all.
Just coasting.
And so,
Not good for a plane.
not good for a plane, no. So.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that it's really uncommon for a plane to lose both of its engines at the same time from something like birds,
Right.
Planes are actually designed to keep flying even if one engine stops working.
Oh, wow.
So for both of them to fail like that, at the same time, it's a very serious problem.
Yeah, that's really scary. And, in charge of this plane was our pilot, a guy named Sully Sullenberger.
Okay.
Now, this guy was a very experienced pilot. He'd been flying for years and years.
Wow.
But what's really amazing is just how calm he stayed during this whole emergency. I mean, you can just imagine the pressure, right? A plane full of people rapidly losing altitude, and they're right over this huge city.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. It really makes you think, like, what's going through someone's mind when something like that happens? All of their training kicks in, for sure.
Right.
But there's got to be that, like, human reaction, too.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Right.
There's a lot of people on here, and this is really scary.
Of course. Yeah.
And so Sully's ability to keep his cool, like you said, is absolutely key to what happens next.
For sure. So, okay, let's try to get a clearer picture of what it was like, in the cockpit of this plane at this moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've just taken off, everything sounding normal with the engines roaring, and then suddenly there's this loud bang.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe like a shudder, and then silence.
Wow.
And the engines are no longer making that familiar noise.
It must be so eerie.
Yeah. And right away, all these warning lights start flashing on the control panel.
Oh, jeez.
And then the co-pilot says those words, we've lost both engines. Can you imagine that? Like that sudden quiet after the loud engines and then feeling the plane start to descend?
Yeah, it must have been terrifying.
Yeah, incredibly alarming. So,
And, pilots, they train for what to do if one engine fails.
right.
But when you lose both engines, especially when you're at such a low altitude like they were right after takeoff,
Right.
The usual procedures you would follow become, like, much harder to use.
Yeah,
They didn't have a lot of time or height to work with.
exactly. And so that's when Sully's quick thinking really kicks in.
Okay.
So instead of, panicking, his mind just starts racing through all these possibilities.
Right.
And so his first thought would have been to try and fly back to the airport,
Yeah.
where they just took off from.
Makes sense.
But LaGuardia Airport was too far away now.
Okay.
And the plane was losing altitude very quickly.
Oh, no.
And then also you got to think about all those tall buildings in New York City.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, trying to guide a powerless plane through all of that,
That sounds impossible.
it would have been incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. The thing that blows my mind is just the speed at which he had to process all this information.
Yeah.
He had a mere seconds to figure out what his options were.
Right.
Considering not just the distance to any possible landing spot,
Right.
but also how fast the plane was dropping.
Right.
And how much control they still had.
Of course. And he even thought about trying to land in a field.
Oh, really?
But, a big airplane like that, it's really heavy.
Yeah.
Even without the engines running.
Right.
And if it landed in a field, at flaming speed, it could just break apart on impact,
Oh, gosh.
which would have been terrible for everyone on board.
Yeah. So he's realizing that all those usual options, they're just not going to work.
Not going to work.
Nope.
And that's when he sees it.
What's that?
The Hudson River.
Okay.
Now, landing a plane on water is like super risky.
Oh, yeah.
And it almost never works out. Well, I mean, think about it. A plane is designed to fly through the air.
Yeah.
Trying to land it on water, it's almost like trying to land a car not just on a wet road, but right in the middle of a lake.
Yeah. I mean,
the forces involved are huge.
Right.
There's a high chance that the plane could just break apart or flip over.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, and you don't see planes landing on rivers every day for a good reason.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Sully looked at that river, and amazingly enough, he decided that was their best chance.
Wow.
So he makes the call.
What do you say?
We're going in.
Wow. That decision, made so quickly.
Yeah.
It not only shows his skill as a pilot, but also just like a remarkable ability to, weigh the risks under such intense pressure.
Absolutely.
He had to compare the dangers of trying to reach an airport or land in a field with the very slim odds of successfully landing on water.
Exactly. And so then he has to actually do it.
Right.
Right. So think about it. Like, he's got to very carefully control this massive, powerless plane. Right. He's got to angle the wings just right to keep it level and point the nose slightly upwards to try and slow it down as much as possible before it hits the water.
Oh, my gosh.
So imagine being inside that plane at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been shaking.
Yeah.
And just so scary.
I can't even imagine.
Knowing what was about to happen.
Yeah. Every little adjustment that he's making to the controls in those last few moments is crucial.
Totally.
He was aiming for what they call a controlled ditching.
Right.
Trying to hit the water at just the right angle and speed
right.
to keep the plane as intact as possible.
Right. So then comes the moment of impact.
Oh, boy.
Brace for impact, he announces to everybody. And then, bam, the plane hits the water.
Wow.
It was a huge slam. I mean, one of our sources described it as like skipping a stone, but with a giant airplane.
Oh, wow.
Can you picture that splash?
Oh, yeah.
The water spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
The loud screeching and tearing sounds of metal.
The forces involved when something that big hits the water that hard are just enormous.
Totally.
I mean, the fact that the plane stayed in one piece is really a testament to how well it was designed and how skillfully Sully handled that landing.
Absolutely. But even though it was a hard landing, Sully manages to keep that plane mostly level, and unbelievably, it stays floating there on the river.
Wow, that's incredible.
But they're not safe yet because the water starts coming into the plane.
Oh, geez.
So Sully immediately jumps up, starts telling everyone to get out, directs them to the wings and to the inflatable rafts that have popped out.
Right.
Now imagine being out on the wing of a plane.
Oh, God.
In the freezing cold water of the Hudson River. In the middle of winter.
That sounds awful.
Awful, right?
Yeah, getting everyone off that plane quickly in those freezing conditions.
Right.
That was another incredibly important part of this whole thing.
For sure.
I mean, the cold water was a serious danger, and, the passengers were probably terrified and in shock.
Totally. But you know what? People listened.
Really?
They were cold. They were shivering. But they followed Sully's instructions.
Wow.
And then rescue boats started to arrive. Sirens going.
It must have been such a sight.
Yeah, it was an amazing sight. All these boats heading towards this downed plane in the water.
Wow.
And here's the truly incredible part. Every single person on board was rescued.
Wow.
All 155 people, not a single person died.
That's amazing.
And Sully, the pilot, he made absolutely sure that every single passenger was off that plane.
Oh, wow.
Before he himself left that sinking aircraft.
That's amazing.
It really is.
So it really shows, his sense of responsibility.
For sure.
And just how focused he was on everyone else's safety.
Totally. And that's why people started calling it the Miracle on the Hudson.
Yeah.
It truly was unbelievable. And, at the center of it all was Sully.
Yeah.
He didn't panic when things went wrong. He thought fast. He made a brave decision.
Yeah.
And he acted with just amazing skill.
Yeah. It's a great reminder that even when things seem impossible.
Right.
Human skill and quick thinking can make a huge difference.
Totally. So you've heard this amazing story.
Yeah.
But what can we actually learn from what happened to Sully?
Right.
Because, most of us, we're probably never going to have to land a plane on a river.
Sure.
But there are definitely things we can take away from this.
For sure.
That can help us in our own lives.
Yeah.
Even with the kinds of challenges that come up for kids.
Absolutely.
No.
So when we look at what Sully did,
yeah,
we can see some really important lessons about how to handle tough situations, even just the everyday ones that we face.
Exactly. So the first big lesson is stay calm when things get tough.
Yeah.
So you think about it, when both those engines stopped working, Sully had every reason to panic.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, anyone would have been scared.
Yeah.
But he kept his cool.
Right.
And that's what allowed him to think clearly and figure out what to do. You know, for you, maybe it's like when you're taking a really hard test at school.
Right.
And you suddenly feel like you can't remember anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Happens to all of us.
Taking a deep breath and trying to stay calm.
Right.
Can really help you focus and think better.
Yeah. And that ability to manage your emotions when you're under pressure.
Right.
It's a really important skill to learn.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
Right.
But practicing things, like you said, taking deep breaths.
Yeah.
They can really help you stay in control and think clearly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. The second thing is to think fast and smart.
Okay.
So Sully, he didn't have much time to decide what to do.
Yeah.
He had to very quickly look at all of his options and make a decision that would give everyone the best chance of survival.
Yeah.
You know, for you, this might be like when you're playing a game and suddenly you need to come up with a quick plan to win.
Right.
Or maybe you suddenly remember that you forgot your homework
Yeah.
and you need to think of a way to explain it to your teacher. It's about using your brain to solve problems quickly.
Yeah, it shows us that it's important to be able to think on your feet.
Right.
And adapt when things don't go as planned.
Right.
It's not just about reacting.
Right.
It's about thinking strategically.
Yeah.
Even when you don't have a lot of time.
Exactly. Lesson number 3, being brave, can really help.
Okay.
So it was a really brave thing to even try landing a plane on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, most people would have been too scared to even think about it.
Right.
But Sully had the courage to try something that seemed almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, in your life, this might be like, you know, feeling nervous about trying out for the school play or being scared to stand up for what you believe in, even if your friends disagree.
Right.
It takes courage to try new things
and
do what you think is right, even when it feels a little scary.
And often that courage comes from, trusting in your abilities.
Right.
And trusting your own judgment.
Yeah.
Even when things look tough.
Exactly. And the last lesson is that every second can matter.
Right.
Sully had a very, very short amount of time to figure out what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
He couldn't waste any time.
Right.
And this is a good reminder for all of us, even in everyday situations.
For sure.
So think about getting ready in the morning for school.
Okay.
If you use your time wisely and you don't spend too long doing one thing,
right,
you're more likely to be ready on time.
Makes sense.
Even little bits of time can make a big difference when you need to act fast.
Yeah. Learning how to manage your time and knowing what's most important to do first.
Right.
Those are valuable skills at any age.
Totally.
And recognizing when a situation needs you to act quickly.
Yeah.
That can lead to better results.
Absolutely. So to sum up, the Sully story is way more than just an exciting, news story.
Yeah.
It teaches us that staying calm when things go wrong.
Right.
Thinking quickly and finding those smart solutions.
Yeah.
Being brave enough to try those difficult things. And acting fast when time is short.
Yeah.
Those things can be really helpful in all sorts of tricky situations.
Absolutely.
And that includes those smaller everyday challenges that you might be facing.
For sure. It's a story that really highlights how strong and capable people can be.
Totally.
And how, developing these skills can help us all when these unexpected challenges come our way.
Exactly. So now for all of you listening, here's something to think about.
Okay.
Can you remember a time when you faced like a mini crash landing in your own day?
Ooh.
Maybe something didn't go your way at school.
Right.
Or you had a disagreement with a friend.
Yeah.
Or something just felt like a huge problem at the time.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Right.
Looking back, do you think you used any of those skills that Sully showed us?
Okay.
Like staying calm, thinking fast, being brave, acting quickly.
Right.
And what's your own Hudson River?
Ooh.
That unexpected idea that you might need to think of when things go totally sideways.
That's a good question.
Yeah, something to think about.
It is.
So thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you next time.